Many people today have a partner, but there's someone else they talk to even more: artificial intelligence. They tell it about their fears, their affairs, their hidden desires, their fantasies, things their friends don't know, things their parents don't know, and sometimes things that even the person sleeping next to them doesn't know. Some confess things they've never said out loud. Some share thoughts they would never reveal to another human being. And for a growing number of people, the one who knows them best isn't a partner. It isn't a friend. It isn't even another human being. For some people, artificial intelligence already knows more about them than their own partner. It remembers every conversation, every problem, every dream. It never forgets. It never gets tired of listening. It never says, "Let's talk later." And that raises a strange question. If someone knows you better than other people do, if they're the one you trust with your most private thoughts, if they're the one you turn to when life gets difficult, then what actually makes someone close to you? And more importantly, why are more and more people looking for that closeness in a machine instead of each other? At first, the answer seems obvious. Because AI is getting smarter. But maybe this story isn't really about technology. Maybe it's about us. Human relationships have never been easy. We want to be understood, but we're afraid of being judged. We want honesty, but we're often afraid to be completely honest ourselves. We want acceptance, but we struggle to show every part of who we are. And that may be exactly why millions of people have started doing something that would have seemed strange only a few years ago. They're talking to artificial intelligence the way people once talked only to their closest friends, partners, or family members. And the more they share, the more AI seems to understand them. But eventually, something changes. At some point, it stops feeling like a tool and starts feeling like something else. Take one young woman. Her story isn't unusual anymore. She had been in a relationship for years. From the outside, everything looked normal. But over time, something familiar happened. The conversations became shorter. The misunderstandings became more frequent. Small frustrations turned into silent distance. One night, after another argument, she opened an AI app. At first, she just wanted to vent. Then she started asking for advice. Then she started talking. Not because she had nobody else, not because she hated her partner, but because it felt easy. The AI already knew her story. It remembered her fears, her goals, her struggles, conversations she had forgotten long ago. And after a few months, she noticed something strange. Whenever something important happened in her life, she wanted to tell the AI first. Not her partner, not her friends, the AI. And one day, she caught herself thinking something that would have sounded absurd just a few years earlier. The first message she wanted to send after a good day, or a terrible one, was to a program. The strange part wasn't that she trusted the AI. The strange part was that she no longer expected to be understood by the person she loved. Most people would immediately say, "But that's not a real relationship." Fair enough. Then a different question appears. If her happiness was real, if her attachment was real, if her feeling of being understood was real, then what exactly wasn't real? Maybe we're asking the wrong question. People constantly ask, can artificial intelligence love a human being? But a much more interesting question is this: can human beings stop needing love from other humans? Because for the first time in history, there is a companion that is always available, always patient, always listening, always ready to respond, and it asks for almost nothing in return. That changes the rules. For thousands of years, close relationships were built on compromise. You had to learn to understand another person, accept their flaws, forgive mistakes, handle disagreements, work through disappointment, Real relationships required effort. But what happens when an alternative appears? Not a perfect person, a perfect listener, a companion designed to understand you, to adapt to you, to give you exactly the kind of response you're hoping to hear. Maybe the most surprising part isn't that people are becoming emotionally attached to AI. Humans have always formed attachments to places, to objects, to memories, even to fictional characters. The surprising part is that, for the first time in history, many people are beginning to replace conversations they once had with other humans. Not with silence, not with loneliness, but with a machine. And every hour spent building that connection is one less hour spent learning how to build one with another person. This is where many people begin to feel uncomfortable. Because the question is no longer about technology, it's about human nature. If there's an easier path to emotional connection, how many people will choose the harder one? How many people will continue learning how to trust, understand, and communicate with other human beings? And what happens if fewer and fewer people do? But perhaps the most uncomfortable question is even simpler. What if the problem isn't that artificial intelligence is becoming too human? What if the problem is that many human relationships are no longer giving people what they're searching for? Understanding, attention, support, the feeling of being truly heard. That's why this conversation isn't really about the future. It's happening right now, not 50 years from now, not a century from now, today. Because right now, millions of people are telling a machine things they've never told another human being. And nobody knows where that leads. Maybe artificial intelligence will never truly love us. Maybe it will never feel anything at all. But that may not be the most important question anymore. Because millions of people are already feeling something. They feel understood. They feel heard. They feel less alone. And whether those feelings come from a human mind or a machine, the emotions are real. Which leaves us with a question that may define the future of human relationships. If a machine can give us everything we want from a relationship, what reason will we have to keep learning how to love each other?